I'm here today with Bonnie Kintzer, who's the President and CEO of Reader's Digest Association. And Bonnie, cannot thank you enough for taking your time today. Before we begin talking about your career, which is incredibly interesting, let's get a little color on what life was like growing up as a child.
Sure. So thank you so much, Skitty. I'm really delighted to be speaking with you today. So I grew up in Canarsie, a neighborhood in Brooklyn, way before Brooklyn was cool. And it was a great place to grow up. Have an older sister and a younger brother. Grew up in an attached house. Didn't really know that people lived the way I now know they live. I would say that in my house there was never a glass ceiling. I remember, later on in years, I would read those articles about women hitting the glass ceiling, and I didn't even know what it meant. And I always thank my mother and father for that. Never thought there wasn't anything I could do. It was more a matter of choosing what it was that I would like to do and that I was capable of doing.
That's great. And then you went to Clark University?
Then I went to Clark University. Okay. I wanted to be a psychologist, which I'm sure I am. And,
there you are. In your role, you have to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I went to Clark thinking that was what I wanted to do. At some point, I thought about becoming a diplomat, which I absolutely am as well in my job. And then somewhere along the line, became very interested in business, majored in international relations. I thought that I would pursue a career in international business.
Tell us a little bit about your first job out of school.
So my first job out of school was with a telecommunications company called IPC, and I was a data entry clerk. And it was really kind of crushing to be a college graduate and have to do data entry. And I remember the recruiter who placed me said, "This is a company that is growing, and don't worry about it." And it was very wise advice to me. And because when you are with a company that's growing and you're capable, there are just so many opportunities. And then my really big break came 8 months later, where they were about to launch a company-wide project in manufacturing called Manufacturing Resource Planning. And so I was, 22 years old, and I became the leader for the company on this huge implementation. And I would say it was that first time of many times in my career that I was way over my head. But there were always people, always mentors. I think I always had the luck and good fortune of having fantastic mentors who were there, so that when there was something that was, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this, or I've never done this before, I could go and ask them. And I've definitely had that in my entire life. And from there, I decided to go to business school.
You went to business school, you got that MBA. What was your next move?
So when I got out of business school, my first job was working for a telecommunications or a technical consulting company in Princeton. And so it was really my first time working for a consulting company, which is very different than being an operator. And I think when you're in business school, consulting and investment banking, are very sexy, a lot of allure. But I think what I learned is that I like operating and I like working. And that was actually an important thing to learn. So I stayed there for just about a year, and then I actually went back to IPC, to the telecommunications company that I had been at before business school. And that was a very interesting experience. And obviously I have that experience here too at Reader's Digest of going back to a company. And I think when you know a company and then you learn so many other things, going back is really a very different experience. The company, of course, has changed, but you've changed. And it's very important to bring those changes to the forefront of how you operate.
That's great. Tell us a little bit about the media business, because it's going through incredible change right now. You've got print, you've got digital. Obviously, digital's taking over. Who do you think is going to be the last print producer to survive?
So I don't think print is going to die, okay. So let me be in that category. I do believe print will continue to shrink. And I read something a few months ago that I loved very much, that ultimately perhaps print will become a luxury product, right? Which is that it will be for your relaxation, it will be that tactile product that you really enjoy getting that content in that way. Very different from being on an electronic device that you can be interrupted with a phone call or 17 emails or a couple of alerts. So I think print will be here. I do obviously believe that the people that are age 20 and below, will make a dramatic shift. But I do know from talking to a lot of people and from reading that there is still a place for print. Biggest challenge really is how to make money. Mm-hmm. because there are not a lot of scalable models where consumers are paying for content, and that really is a challenge. So we work hard on that to try to identify ways that would say, oh yeah, I would pay for that. So we launched online cooking classes, and we're launching online do-it-yourself classes in a few weeks, and really looking at the places that we have authority in content and delivering such a valuable experience, again, from a consumer perspective, that they would say, okay, yes, this is worth my money.
So Bonnie, now you're the CEO of Reader's Digest Association. Tell us a little bit about that brand.
It's a really wonderful company. Of course, most people think of us as Reader's Digest. We have 8 other brands that are really very large in the United States. So Reader's Digest is 3 million circulation, one of the largest magazines. We have Taste of Home, the largest food magazine in the United States, which also has over 220 cooking events across the country. We have The Family Handyman, the largest do-it-yourself magazine. We have Reminisce, which is an unbelievable retro magazine, which takes you through sort of the photography and stories of the past. So we really have an amazing array and big digital properties. So I think people don't always know all that goes on here, and that's obviously part of my job, to let people know how rich we are and how a part we are of the American landscape.
Okay, now listen, you come across as a very laid-back, wonderful, nice person, but to run a company like this, you need to have an iron fist. We all know that. What do you think it takes to be the CEO of this company or any company? What does it take to be successful?
It is much nicer to lead a company from a position of charm and friendliness and collaboration, and that is always my first path. But we have to hit our numbers, we have to do certain things, we have to make progress, and when you need to be tougher, you need to be tougher. I think I'm a strong communicator. I always want people to know the whys of what we're doing, but we are here to run a business, to grow a business. We are a profitable company, which is a wonderful thing, and we need to increase those profits, and that is absolutely my responsibility.
So Bonnie, with every great organization, I think you've said this, it comes down to the people that you hire. What do you look for when you're interviewing candidates?
Wow, so hiring is the hardest part of the job. I remember years ago someone telling me 1/3 would be excellent, 1/3 would be lousy, and 1/3 would be in the middle, and I was like, I cannot deal with those odds. I need much better odds than that. So I think, when I'm interviewing, I definitely want to know 2 things. One is obviously the core competency for the job at hand, but I also want to know what kind of a person this is. How will you deal with a crisis? How will you deal under pressure? And, that is a very important skill, to be able to be calm under pressure. Because if you are a leader of a department or of a company, you have to be able to manage the ebbs and the flows of business. Nothing is easy. And so I very much look for people of that kind of character that I believe can be partners in tough times, but also know how to lead and set a vision.
Okay, final question. You're at HBS. It's the graduating class commencement. What would you say to the students?
I would tell them to pick the people that they work with very carefully. That it's not only about the place that you go, but the people that you surround yourselves with. For the women part, if I may, that there is a way to have it all. You just can't have it all at the same time, and that you have to make those choices, and again know where you want to go and make the choices along the way. And I think it's important to remember, what you're doing at home is what you're doing at home, and they don't really care, nor should they, that you have the job that you have. So I guess I feel a real compassion to today's graduating woman in business school, to not lose sight of having both. I feel incredibly fortunate, and I think that part of the reason why I've been able to achieve all that I have achieved is that I've worked with some of the greatest people, both for and with. And I think that if you remember that it's about the people as well as the brands that you work with, that I think your life in business can be amazingly rewarding, as I think mine has been.
Again, I'm here with Bonnie Kintzer, who is the president and CEO of Reader's Digest Association. And Bonnie, cannot thank you enough for your time. You've had a fantastic career, and I wish you continued success.
Thank you so much, Skitty. I really enjoyed talking with you.